I think that the best teacher in life is experience. And when you are strict on raising obedient children, then you strip them from the opportunity to have more experiences that teach them who they are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, so I want to warn you guys that the views expressed here are not mainstream. After listening to this episode, hopefully you'll see how beneficial it can be to raise disobedient kids. But let's be clear, it's not easy. And one thing that makes it even harder is when you don't feel good and are low on energy. That's when do it because I said so just rolls off the tongue. And doing something just because you said so isn't really what you want for your kids. So to successfully raise respectful but disobedient kids, you gotta make sure your well-being is your #1 priority. And one of the ways I do that is by drinking AG1 by Athletic Greens every single morning. One scoop is packed with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants to support the energy levels and overall wellness that I need to keep up with these intelligent kids of mine. I've been drinking it consistently for several weeks now, and I've been feeling pretty good. Shoot, just last week, I managed to avoid getting some germs that were passing through the house. Shout out to AG1 for supporting my immune system. When I feel that good, it's much easier to tackle the challenges of parenting, including the task of raising kids that think critically. That right there is the biggest lesson I've learned as an adult. In order for me to be an effective person for myself and the people I love most, I have to start by taking my health seriously, and you should too. So, if you want to take ownership of your health, today is a good time to start. Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. You can go to athleticgreens.com/TCHP to take advantage of that. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/TCHP. All right, let's talk about these disobedient kids.
All right, welcome back to the Culture of Health podcast. We have a really juicy, okay, maybe not that juicy episode today.
It's juicy.
But it's a somewhat controversial topic on why we should be raising disobedient kids.
It takes soft parenting to the next level.
And so this is actually an episode that Austin thought about doing. And I'm very interested to see what your reasoning behind this is. So let's jump right in.
But you agree with me, right?
I mean, I'm going to wait for your reasoning first. I'm just kidding.
So
I mostly agree with you.
I think that like the overall premise of like raising disobedient children is like rooted in critical thought, right?
Okay.
But I say disobedient because they have to be disobedient in order to think critically. Like you can't think critically without being disobedient.
Okay.
You know? And then of course, you know, we have our children in a self-directed learning academy, which we'll probably touch on later.
Yeah.
But we've seen the benefits of kids navigating their life on their own.
Okay.
Without, you know, too much oversight.
Right.
And I don't think parenting is any different. I look at our children as younger versions of us, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm 31. And up until this point, and in the next 5 to 10 years, I'm going to continue making mistakes that is making me like the person that I am. And in order for me to continue making those mistakes, I have to be able to think critically and be confident in my voice.
Okay.
So when I say like raise disobedient children, I basically mean like giving them or letting them know that they have ownership over their life and being able to make decisions of their own despite what you and I think are, you know, is best for them.
Right.
You know?
Okay, so that sounds a little bit better, right?
Maybe that's just like a shocking headline.
Yeah. So it's okay. So I think initially when people hear disobedient, sometimes they can feel like it means disrespectful.
Yeah. So yeah.
So it's not that. It's a big difference.
Yeah. So like a disobedient child here's an example. Me telling Camden, saying, hey, don't go in the kitchen and get anything because, I don't know, I want you to eat something healthy or whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. And he goes in the kitchen anyway, but he gets an apple, right? Okay. Is that disrespectful because he didn't do what I asked him to do? Yeah. Not really. I think that's where like ego comes in. I feel disrespected. And I had a moment with Cadence I'll touch on a little bit later that kind of like changed how I parent each of them. And of course, watching you, I think you kind of kicked off this hands
It's
off.
raising disobedient children.
Raising disobedient children, yes.
No, the more gentle approach to parenting.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Pretty
like,
much.
it's next level gentle parenting. But that Camden going to the kitchen to feed himself, like, he's not saying, like, I need to listen to dad because he's my dad.
Yeah.
He's like, my dad said not to get anything unhealthy.
Right.
So I'm going to solve that problem by going in the kitchen and walking out with an apple, right?
Gotcha.
So that's disobedient, but not disrespectful to me. Disrespectful is when they be raising their voices at us.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? If we ask them to do something several times and it doesn't get done, like cleaning their rooms or taking showers when they're supposed to.
But what if they have a good reason? And their disobedience is justified.
Well, I think that it goes back to like what our agreements are in the house, right?
Okay.
Like if we have arrived at an agreement that everyone needs to maintain a clean living environment, and that's something that we shook on, and it's like, yo, we got an understanding
So
here.
we're shaking on stuff with our kids now.
Yeah, you got it, man. Yeah, you got to like get stuff written in
No,
contract.
I understand. I'm just,
Get them to sign. Yeah.
Because we live together, right? And we create this environment together. This is not a dictatorship. We don't want to raise a household like that because we just want it to not only be fun, but we want it to be like inviting and a place where everybody is feeling welcome and, just overall thriving.
Yeah.
So,
and you want to give your kids ownership of the environment too.
Right.
And you can't hold your children, especially if you want to raise disrespectful kids.
No, not disrespectful.
I'm sorry, disobedient. Especially if you want to raise disobedient kids. Like, I think that naturally humans are born into this world seeking order, right? Like we're all seeking some sort of structure in our lives.
Because why? What do you think? For the validation, to be able to fit in?
No, I don't even think to fit in. I just think
not
that
in a bad way, but just to like live safely.
I mean, I think just to thrive, you know, like we have a sleep-wake schedule. Our entire existence is revolves around when the sun comes up and when the sun sets, you know? So we all are seeking some sort of order to operate within.
Right.
And I think kids need structure and order.
Yeah.
But they also need to have freedom and autonomy within that structure. So going back to like cleaning your room, it's like, hey, Camden, if you're going to live in this house and you want the freedom that you're asking for, then these are the core agreements that we live by.
Yeah.
And you have to agree to that.
Right.
And so like, if we agree to maintain a clean living environment, but you ain't holding up your end of the bargain.
Right. Then we got an issue. Yeah. I like that. I think that that really sums up a lot of the way that we, have parented them. So you said that earlier, that I kind of came into this, parenting journey with that mindset. But what changed? How were you before? I guess what were your thoughts on like your role as a parent, their role as a child, and just how you interacted and navigated that?
Yeah. Well, I was raising them how I was raised, and like shout out to my mom. I gotta say this because
every episode.
I have to because she's gonna look at this and she's gonna reflect back on how she raised us.
For sure. And we've had conversations with them about stuff too.
And we will have more in the future. And they did a phenomenal job.
Exactly.
Raising us.
You have to give a little bit of background, just really quickly. Like how many of y'all? It was all boys.
Yes, all boys. I got 5 brothers. Both parents in the household, and they tag team. There was no mom is the primary caregiver, dad. It was 2 of them. But we grew up in Long Beach, California. We grew up around the hood. We had a safe street that we lived on. But their goal was to keep us safe, keep us busy, and keep us obedient.
Yeah.
Obedient because there was danger outside of the area that we lived in. And if we didn't listen, then, there were consequences that they didn't want us to suffer.
Right.
So it was very much like, do what I said because I said so.
Yeah.
And not much of this, raising disobedient children. There was no disobedience.
Yeah.
It was like, you gonna do this.
Right.
And if you don't, then
it's just like a continuation of how you're kind of how they might have been parented or whatever.
100%.
Now I think because things are more popular and there's more, like research done and all the things, there's more of like a community of people raising their kids differently. You know, it feels a little bit safer to do that. Back then it was probably like, nah,
you crazy.
Yeah.
Especially if you Black.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's a whole nother
thing.
If you're raised in a a black house. And I personally think it goes back to like, you could take it back to like slavery and not wanting to step out of line for fear of being corrected and
I mean, it was for
punished.
survival.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
couldn't.
And that's my parents too. It's like, I want you to survive.
Yeah.
In order to survive, we're going to live this way.
Right.
So,
I think that's most parents. It's like we feel like it's our job to keep these little people safe.
mm-hmm.
And the best way we know how to do that is by telling them what to do.
Exactly.
You know, until we realize that they are people too.
And they also want to be kept safe.
And they also want to be kept safe. And they're learning. And they learn from failure.
Exactly.
And they learn from trying.
Yeah.
So if we're not allowing them to do those things on a daily basis, I feel like creating an environment, a safe environment at home for them to be able to do that. Because they got to feel pretty comfortable, right? I think we do that. We try to do that well, where we give them the freedom to ask questions and to give a rebuttal or, you know, in a respectful way.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, so going back to your question about how I used to be.
Yeah,
like
not bad.
that's how I raised. That's how I wanted to, or how I thought I was supposed to.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I was heavy on it, you know what I'm saying? Popping, spanking. I was looking at you crazy because you didn't.
We had a whole disagreement before. I remember that.
I vaguely remember.
Now you vaguely remember.
I don't remember that at all.
It was a conversation. We don't have to go into all the details.
No, go ahead.
Before we had Camden, I was pregnant, and we were talking about discipline and how we wanted to discipline our children.
Yeah.
And you were just like, we gonna do what we gotta do, and if spanking is involved, we gonna do that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know. I think there might be a different way. What if we explore X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
And you were just like, nah. But you were like, just wait and see.
I mean, because it was also like, you're a woman, right?
Yeah.
And I'm raising, Camden was our firstborn, like a
True.
son, you know?
Yeah.
And so in my mind back then, it was like, well, I have to be tough enough to create this child who is also going to be tough when he goes out into the world.
Yeah.
So that was my philosophy. It was, you know, you're going to be spanked. I'm the head honcho in his house. You're going to respect me, even with the girls. You know what I'm saying? I recall, like, you know, not getting my way and my ego was bruised. And then in return, I'm being aggressive. And I like think back to like their faces and it hurts my feelings sometimes. I know, right? Because it's like, I wasn't seeking compliance in that moment. I was trying to soothe my own like hurt by like you, how dare you disrespect me, you know? So I'm going to make sure like I'm going to get the last word. I'm going to raise my voice. And it's just fear. You know what I'm saying? It's instilling fear in them.
Right.
So that they don't challenge me again. Right. But that's the reason why I think it's so important to raise disobedient kids, because if you raise children that are afraid of challenging, then what type of adults do they turn into, especially in this world that we live in, where everything now is driven by, you know, socially conforming to whatever the popular ideas are of the time, you know, take it back to 2020 during COVID. And regardless of what your beliefs are of like vaccines and masking and social distancing, there was a massive like onslaught of just fear that was placed over the entire population. And people reacted in one or two ways. It was, I'm going to amplify the voices that are telling the masses what to do. Where you saw people building an entire personality off getting everybody vaccinated and stuff like that. Or you had the complete opposite, where people are like, I don't care what y'all doing. I'm gonna do the total opposite. And I think that a healthy approach to that is somewhere in the middle, where it's like, I'm not concerned with either camp. I just trust my own inner voice. Right. And I'm gonna make decisions based on that. Yeah. And so that's what we want to cultivate within the kids now. Right. So that when they get older, it's like, okay, like this ain't foreign to me. I was talking back to my parents. Oh my gosh. I told my parents, and I was right sometimes. So, you know. Yeah, maybe not with all that attitude, but for sure, you know, you want to make sure that they feel like supported, justified in just being like a person and having a mind. Right. And being able to think critically. Yeah. I think it's important to give children like their props, you know? Yeah. Like it's just something that I think is validating within them. And then they grow up to be these confident teenagers and then adults, and, you know, and leaders. Right. I mean, we need more leaders. We do. And it's hard because when you're raising disobedient children, it's just hard. How many times we ask them to go to bed, get in the shower, clean up?
I mean, it's a lot. I think there's a healthy, I polled my audience on Instagram, and they basically said that it's, well, first of all, a lot of people chimed in and said that I feel you. They're going through the same thing that we go through with this bedtime routine, but that it also gets easier as they get older, and it just won't last. It won't last forever,
For sure. But still, like, they ask why, and rebut with what, and it's so, like, how often do you want to say, just do it because I said so?
Right.
Like, that's the easier thing. I think when you raise kids to be obedient, it's easier on the parents. You have an easier job parenting when your child does everything that you say and they don't question you.
For sure. And sometimes I want to be that parent. I'm like,
absolutely. Yeah. When we're tired, I am that parent sometimes.
And put me in the boot camp. I want to learn all the things. I want to learn how to say, because I said so, and do it now. And I'm just kidding. I have definitely said that when I feel like
when you're tired.
When I'm tired.
Out of patience.
But also when warranted. Like if it's literally like, I need to save your life right now.
Right.
You gotta listen.
Yes.
And you have to know that. And I think there are a lot of nuances to all of this. It's not really cut and dry or black and white. I think that there are specific situations where children, they kind of know, like it's an inside thing where they know, okay, let me not give a rebuttal right now. This is not the time. I mean, I think.
Put that bass in your voice.
Yeah. And they're just smart. They kind of just know, I think about when they're not in our house and how they act, and part of me is like, ooh, don't be talking back to other people. But we get so many comments about them being confident, and it's not, we don't really get comments about them being disrespectful or talking back. You know what I'm saying? So clearly they have this ability to understand when is the right time.
Code switching.
Okay. Yes, that's what it is. So they get it. But also, like, if they're on their own, if they're out in the neighborhood in their groups or whatever of friends, we want them to be able to hold their own, to be able to spot danger or to use their, intuition, as you kind of mentioned earlier, and their inner voice to listen to that.
Yeah.
Those things are so important. So
and you have to make mistakes to build that inner voice. What's up, you guys? So what I'm about to tell you is really important, and you'd probably take it more seriously if I was a little bit older, like 28 years older. So hang on.
Okay, this is better. All right, look, as much as I talk about health on this podcast, one aspect that's often overlooked is health insurance. I know, you think it's expensive, but I promise it doesn't have to be.
What are you talking about, Dad?
I'm trying to tell them about insurance.
Oh, man, do your thing.
My name is Eric. I'm with Access Benefit Consultants. I've been insuring families since Austin was a baby. Our agents specialize in helping independent contractors get covered with health insurance.
Wait, I'm an independent contractor. How much you think it'll cost me?
Man, we help people get covered for little or nothing. It depends on a few things. And I'll tell you what, why don't you just head over to our site? You can either call us, set an appointment, or generate your own quote. And tell your mom and them to call us as well. They need someone they can trust to go over their plan. And we're those people.
Okay, so look, all this talk about raising disobedient kids is gonna be impossible if you're always feeling drained and exhausted. If that sounds like something you experience on a regular basis, I wonder if you've ever heard of Levels. They're a health tech company that helped me see how food is affecting my health through continuous glucose monitoring. With Levels, I've easily tracked my glucose in real time, and it gave me the power to make informed decisions about what I'm putting in my body. But here's the thing, it's not just about food. Continuous glucose monitoring can also help you identify habits that cause unstable glucose and lead to fatigue and low energy. With this information, you can make adjustments to your diet and lifestyle to boost your energy levels and become better equipped to raise disobedient children, if you'd ever do something crazy like that. Like I said earlier, you have to prioritize your health if you want the best chance at being an effective person, especially an effective parent. So I'm inviting you to give Levels a try, and I left a special link in the show notes that gives you 2 free months on top of your yearly membership. This was one of the most eye-opening experiences about how my habits were affecting my health, and I know it will add tremendous value to your life as well. All right, back to the show. I think I told you about this. I was with Carter at the park, and there's a lake, and I have a picture.
It's a pond.
It's a pond. It's a pond. It's a pond. I'm gonna see if I can put it on the video here. But there's a path of rocks that's going across the pond. And the first time Carter did it, I was like, hey, Carter, don't do that because you can fall. He's like, no, Dad, I got it. And like, very small part of me was like, excuse me? Like, I said, but then I was like, all right, cool. You say you got it, then go. So he did it the first time. There were some kids that were older than him that held his hand and walked him across the biggest jump. And he was like geeked up, confident, like he did it. So then he went back when he was by himself. And the second time he didn't make it. So he slipped off one of the rocks and fell into the water. And he was like, I don't know, maybe like waist deep. But the first thing he did was look up and say, Dad. And I was like, oh, my baby.
I know.
I gotta get him. And deep down inside, like my first reaction, I was gonna like run and save him. But then I caught myself. I was like, okay, cool. Like, hold on. He's standing up. He's safe. So instead of walking across the path of rocks to get him, I just stopped and I spoke to him. I was like, hey, Carter, calm down. Just get up, slowly. And catch your footing. And he was like, crying a little bit, scared, nervous. But he ended up doing it. And then when he got to the other side, he was like, Dad, don't go across those rocks. He was like, don't go across those rocks. It's slippery. And so it's like, I told him that it was dangerous. But then he had an opportunity to find out by himself. And he survived and he learned. So the next time he's approached with a situation like that, he's not going to be looking for me to tell him what to do and what not to do. He has an experience that he can pull from where it was troubling, but he survived.
Exactly.
And I think that's like ultimately, that's what we want with disobedient children. It's like, okay, fine. If you're not going to obey what I want, if you think you have a better solution, then do it. And sometimes they're right.
Sometimes they're right. A lot of times they're right. But going back to that, I feel like that was a good example of parenting as a guide and not a strict authoritarian in the household. You know what I'm saying? So it brings up the concept of like this whole guide thing. Like our children experience that at school where they have guides and not teachers, and they're literally there to help guide them along their way, be there for support when they have issues or whatever. And I feel like that's kind of how you were with Carter. It's like, I'm here, I support you, you can see me. If you have a question, let me know. Like if you're really struggling, I'm gonna help you, but I'm gonna help you through the situation. And I think he also, in that, it seemed like he was able to like trust your guidance as well. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe in the beginning he didn't believe you. It's like, oh, Daddy, whatever. You don't know what you're talking about. But then as he, figured it out on his own, it was still in the back of his head. I'm sure it was like, okay, Dad was right. And it's not like Dad was right to be right. And he needs to throw it in my face. But it was like, all right, you got my back.
I could trust him.
I mean,
maybe.
Hopefully they feel that way anyway about us, but
no.
Whatever. Sometimes they might need examples too, because children are human. They're people. We all are, And so I can just imagine for some people, they're like, okay, y'all, that sounds really good. But
it is really good because it requires, as a parent, it requires you to fall back, and there's benefits to falling back because you're not obsessed with how things turn out. Like if we're still learning as adults and we're still making mistakes.
But we got to be honest, like how many of us are really admitting that we're still learning?
I mean, if you ain't admitting it, if you are an adult and you say you ain't learning nothing, you a lie.
Right?
You're a liar.
Even like our parents.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's honestly like, that's what I love so much about like the phase of life that we're in. Like I have a really close relationship with my parents and I have a close relationship with my kids, and I get to see learning at different stages. Like when you're a new person to this world and you just have all the, whatever, naivete, is that the word? Naivety.
Maybe.
We'll figure that one out.
Yeah.
When you're naive, and then when you're our age, it's like we're still naive about some things, but we also have some wisdom to pull from. And then you get to my parents' age and they have so much wisdom, but they're still learning stuff too. And so it's like, I'm not going to look at my parents as more wise or more capable just because they're older than me. And I'm not going to look at my children as less wise or less capable because they're younger than me. They just have a different level of wisdom and the capacity to learn things. And I think that the best teacher in life is experience. And when you are strict on raising obedient children, then you strip them from the opportunity to have more experiences that teach them who they are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially like as they're young, because, you know, we turn 18 and we're kicked out the house, gone off to college. But from ages 1 to 17, your mama and your daddy was making all the decisions for you, and obedience was the number one thing. And then once you get out on your own and you don't have them to make decisions for you, what you do? People be out here going crazy.
They be going crazy, or they call their mama
Or they call and ask
every 5 minutes.
Or they might call every 5 to 10 minutes, yeah. But
or peer pressure. I mean, or, you know, somebody.
Or you do what your friends do.
You do what your friends do.
You're looking for somebody else to tell you what to do, what is okay, how to behave, what decisions to make.
Right.
And I think that's why the ages 18 to 25 are the most, like, those are the years, bro. Like for our kids, like, it's not even 18. I want you to turn 25, 26, get to 30.
Yeah.
And then you're good. I think they'll be better off though, because they have experience making decisions. But for a lot of people, man, you get this freedom and then you're forced to make all these decisions on your own, and you make a lot of bad decisions. And I think that there are a lot of physiological reasons for that. But on top of that, it's because you didn't have any practice making decisions up until this point.
Right.
So then the next, 5, 6, 7 years of freedom that you have are struggle years.
Right, yeah.
Because you don't know how to, trust that voice within and make good decisions.
I think it would be interesting to to talk to people who kind of think differently than us, right? Just to have that opposing
100%
view. Of course, you like that.
I love that.
You like the back and forth. I just be like, you got it. Like, I don't know. But really, because I feel like even growing up, I think that we had this mentality, you know what I'm saying? Or we had it within us. I don't know. My mom gave me a lot of freedom, right? She just, I don't know what her exact reasoning was, but it allowed me to make decisions on my own. It allowed me to pull her in when I needed her. I mean, it may have forced me to be like this super independent woman.
But you were very self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, I'm going to handle my business.
Right.
Pretty much since you left the house.
Yeah. So, and me even before that, even in school, I just remember her saying, like, I have good kids. Like, I don't need to be breathing down their throat, basically.
Yeah.
And, I might have waited till the last minute to do some projects and stuff. But she still saw me getting my stuff done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And she allowed me to do that.
Yeah. I think that's really what it boils. Like, when you have good kids.
Yeah.
Like, you can loosen that rope. Now, I mean, if your kid is out here, like, just
they
on
just came out disobedient.
If they're on demon time, like, you don't need to be raising disobedient children. You need to get your child together. But if you have good children, like, we hear nothing but great things about our kids from other adults.
Yeah.
And so, like, when it comes to, like, curfew for Camden, and I'm like, come home at 6. And he gets home at 6:15. I ain't tripping, man. You know what I'm saying?
Not for real.
Not for real. I mean, obviously, like, there's that respect factor where you're not coming home on time. But if you call me, you keep me in the loop and you let me know, like, what's going on.
Right. But if we made that agreement beforehand,
then there's going to have to be some
consequences.
100%.
And they know that, and I think that's the part that we have to make sure we hold up our end of the bargain.
Right.
So that they understand how this impacts themselves and then the household and, whatever else.
As long as they understand that, because telling them to come home at 6 o'clock for an arbitrary reason is not good enough.
Because sometimes they call us and say, hey, we're such and such is eating dinner and they want to know, can I stay?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or whatever is going on. Or I'm in the middle of a minute, I got 5 more minutes on my video game or whatever. There's leniency. And I think that's how you build trust in the relationship as like parent and child. It's not just super strict, do as I say.
Yeah. And if they know the reason why we set the curfew for 6:30, like, hey, we need you home by 6:30 because showers start at this time and then dinner's at this time, and we want you to go to bed on time so that you can wake up in the morning and get to school on time and have energy and feel good.
I mean, we say all those things. I don't know. I still don't think they get it. But
I don't know. Cadence. Well, she just likes to come home on time anyway.
Oh yeah, she's a rule follower.
Yeah, she's a rule follower.
Like, did she hear us?
She's a rule follower. But no, like, I think that ultimately, I think everybody, kids too, are like you want to do the right thing. I think in deep down inside, we all have an innate desire to do the right thing.
The right thing. But we also have to know to do the right thing for ourselves.
Exactly. And that's the distinguishing factor that kids need to learn how to navigate, because if they feel strongly about something that they want to do for themselves, they need room to figure out whether or not it was best for them or not. Like Carter, for example, like if he said, no, going across this path of rocks is best for me, so that's what I'm going to do. And then you end up falling in the water, cool, natural consequences. And now you can navigate your decision making a little bit better. Or like when they went skating earlier today and you were like, Camden, don't go, skating on this pathway because it's wet. And Camden comes back and he's like, bruh, it's not slippery. I'm fine. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I totally, because typically there's water in the breezeway and it's very slick and slippery. So as a parent, I'm just like, look, make sure you have on your helmet and don't go in the breezeway. How about go somewhere else? I just ruled out the breezeway altogether. And so then he goes out, he's like, let me see, and I can assume that some parents won't even let the kid out the door to go see.
Yeah.
But he's like, let me go see. And so he goes to see. And I'm still like, whatever, because when you have multiple kids or things on your mind and they interrupt you, you're just, your natural answer is just do what I say, right? Or your thought process. And then I go outside later, probably like an hour later, and there's no water in the breezeway. And I'm like, look at that. And they were playing. They made the decision to play in the breezeway for whatever their reasoning was to do that.
Disobedient.
Yeah, it was, but whatever. They were
But were they
fine.
wrong?
No, they weren't wrong.
That's
because
the
it
point.
wasn't slippery.
And that's like the crux of the entire thing, because like, again, we're creating this world where right and wrong is no longer really by the book of the law. It is, but it's transitioning to what the majority says.
Yeah.
And you really have to be strong and confident in whatever your convictions are to go against that.
Exactly.
Like it takes, like with COVID, like
Yeah.
we decided not to do the COVID vaccine because we had our own personal reasons.
Yeah.
And the pressure to get vaccinated,
Yeah.
if you're not confident in who you are and why you're making your decisions, then you are going to make decisions based on what other people think.
Yeah.
And so it starts with children. It starts with Camden being able to say, okay, you said it's slippery outside. Am I going to listen to you, or am I going to go outside and figure it out for myself and then make my own decision? And the fact that they like have the freedom to do that to me is beautiful. It sucks, kind of sucks right now, because it's harder for us. We have to explain more.
Yeah.
And it just is more work as parents. But I think that as they get older, it's like, okay, I can trust you because you've proven up until this point that you have the capacity to make good decisions, despite what my rules are.
Exactly.
To go past what I think is best, and for you to say, all right, well, let me figure out what's best. Okay, by now you're seriously thinking about how you too can raise disobedient kids. Well, I got 2 pieces of advice for you, okay? First, trust your gut. Nobody knows kids and what their needs are better than their parents. And second, make sure you can actually trust your gut. One of the ways I'm able to trust my gut is by prioritizing fiber throughout the day. Oats, raspberries, and avocados are routinely in my diet, but if things get hectic, which happens a lot when you have multiple kids, I make a quick protein shake and dump in some Fiber Mix by Supergut. It's a tasteless powder with a blend of prebiotics and probiotics, which help to support a healthy gut. Daily recommended fiber intake is like 30 grams of fiber each day, and many of us are only getting in about 14. We gotta do better. I'm sure you know by now there's some pretty well-established research that has shown a healthy gut can have a positive impact on mood and behavior. This is because the gut and brain are closely connected, and a balanced gut can improve communication between the two. I don't know about you, but how nice I am to my kids is very dependent on the mood I'm in. I know what it feels like for my gut to be out of whack, and I'm not the nice and patient daddy that they deserve. So one way I keep myself in check is taking care of my gut using Supergut products. The Fiber Mix is super easy to add to your daily routine and can be enjoyed by the whole fam. But don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. There's a link in the show notes for you to check out Supergut's Fiber Mix, or just head on over to supergut.com. That's supergut.com. Y'all check out that Fiber Mix.
Okay, so in the nutrition space, that's something that we are very passionate about. Do you still feel convicted about them being disobedient and navigating their own nutrition? How do you feel about
great.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, from their perspective, I feel like they're like, oh, you guys are always telling us what to do. I mean, if anything else, like that's the thing that we're pretty passionate about.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it, you know, if we're as, I don't know, lenient with them, you know?
I think we are.
I think we are, but I don't know if they receive it that way. You know, Cadence is like, oh, if you weren't metabolism mentor and if you weren't the fresh mom, then we would have a better life. We can eat all the sugar we wanted.
Yep. I think that, you know, I think that we're loosening up more, or at least I know I am personally. Okay. But I think that they need room to make bad decisions with their nutrition as well. Yeah. Like, you know, Cadence, for example, if she knows, she's become aware up until this point that if she eats certain things that her stomach is going to hurt. Yeah. And that's by trial and error. And so even if Cadence goes out and has, you know, a bottle of soda, which we found in the closet, you found in the closet, a bottle of Fanta, it's like, all right, cool. Like, you made that decision. I'm not going to trip off of that. I think it's a really good opportunity for us to follow up the next day or 2 days after and say, okay, well, how are you feeling? Because there was a day where Cadence came home. She had, I think I put it on my Instagram. She had a lollipop. She had some like weird high fructose corn syrup juice.
Field trip.
Yeah. And she had a lot of sugar that day. Like that was her decision. The very next day, she was a terror. Yeah. She was a terror, yelling, screaming, arguing with everybody, like just in a bad mood. Yeah. And I don't know if I did it at this time. I know I've done it before, but it's important to tie your mood back to your nutrition. Because if you don't like how you feel right now, and I can show you that it's because of what you ate, then, you know, you'll get older and you'll be more mindful. Like, yeah, I ain't really trying to be in a bad mood, so I'm not going to eat that. Right. Or I don't want my stomach to hurt, so I'm not going to eat that. So it's the same thing. They still need to be disobedient in order to learn the lessons to develop their own relationship with food. Right. Yeah. A good, healthy relationship. Yeah. With our guidance.
Exactly. With our guidance. Yes. Yeah. I love that.
There you go.
So a little bit more about, I guess we can tell people a little bit more about like their school, and there are other schools like it around the country. Yes. We actually know of a parent who, well, a follower on Instagram who became a friend, who became a parent of a child at school.
Shout out Steph. Yes.
And Steph, actually, she posted a list of books that they are required to read like at their child's school. Okay, so our children all go to a self-directed learning school where they basically put the children at the center of their learning. Yeah. And the teachers, you know, are called guides. They're there to support them. And it's really cool to see them blossom. But she put up a list of resources. I was thinking about what to share with people on here. And hopefully I'll get that list from her and we can put it up. But it was just a number of books. If you want to go deeper, you know, on what we're talking about today, in raising disobedient children, free thinkers, free range, what are some more
free
words?
Range kids. Yeah. Yeah, whatever those resources are. Because, you know, private school isn't always an option for a lot of people. There's a cost associated with it. But that doesn't mean, I think that, you know, self-directed learning starts at home. It's primarily at home. And then it's continued in their environment at school. Yeah. So yeah, whatever those resources are, I guess we could put them in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll leave them there.
But yeah, like with this self-directed learning academy, this kind of like helped shape our parenting model a little bit where, you know, you kind of take your kids to school, you drop them off, and they're in charge of their own curriculum. And what I love so much about it is like, they get to the end of the year and they know they have their goals to reach. And Camden and Cadence are like, shoot, like I have to finish my plan. So they're like going, Camden's up at 11 o'clock at night doing math, and Cadence, she
was never behind.
In the first place. But Camden was behind, but he made it a point to catch up before the end of the year, and he did it. And it was a sense of accomplishment. Nobody had to beg him to do his work. It was completely self-directed. And that framework is more important than like, I don't care about math. Like you can do a calculator. I don't care about writing. They got a whole artificial intelligence out here that'll write a paper for you.
Doesn't care about any of the things, y'all.
I don't care about none of the traditional learning stuff.
But
I want to know if you have the capacity to make good decisions, if you can think critically, and if you can make a plan and see it to completion. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and I was about to say, and actually know how to use those platforms, how to use a calculator, like how to think critically enough to say, okay, what's the easiest way? What's the path of least resistance right now? How can I?
Why should I care about my child knowing how to do long division on paper? We got phones with the answer. We got calculators. Like, what's the point? You know, I mean, I get it. And you want to have good handwriting and blah, blah, blah. I get it. But ultimately, like, the most important things to learn in life are like self-actualization and being able to think critically and to follow through on a plan and to have autonomy.
Yeah, that's a whole episode within itself. Self-actualization. Oh my gosh. That's gonna be a good topic.
And it starts as kids. It starts with confidence and them believing in themselves.
And they come here knowing so much, you know.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of the stuff, their confidence and their creativity and individuality is stripped from them as they go throughout life, and they are what's the word?
Domesticated.
They're domesticated. Shout out to
the Four
Agreements, the book. But yes, they are domesticated, and we are, you know, they're forced to fit in this world and this mold.
Yeah.
And we, you know, we're good. It's 2023. We don't need no more of those.
No, we need. Well, I guess everybody's
welcome. Everybody has a purpose.
Well, everybody's gonna raise whatever child you think we need more of in the world.
Sure.
Some people think that we need more compliant and, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess everybody shouldn't be a leader to that degree, you know. But you do want, I think everybody can agree that they want their children to feel whole, complete, confident, and to grow up to be well-rounded people.
100%.
At the end of the day.
And the best way to accomplish that is to give them room to fail early. And it's like the best time to do it while they're young, because we have so much oversight and control of their lives. Like, we can keep them alive. You know what I'm saying? Like, now is the best time for them to go out and like
explore a little bit.
Explore, make mistakes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's only so much. They're not driving. They're not having sex. They're not, you know, they don't have access to drugs.
So we're talking about children in your house. Like, what ages are we talking about? Because I feel like it gets a little.
I mean.
But even those topics, as they grow older, I can imagine that you navigate them, you know, like you help them navigate those things, and you don't tell them, don't do it, stay away from it, whatever. I mean, you do, but there's I can imagine that there is going to be a lot of discourse as to why, and, you know, comparisons to who's doing what, and, you know, just helping them to make good decisions.
Yeah.
I think your parents did an amazing job, and mine too, did an amazing job with that, you know, in guiding us to make good decisions, but also giving us the freedom, you know, and the support to say, hey, I got you.
If you do fail.
Or
make a bad decision.
Like, I'm here for you. I got you.
Yeah.
You know?
And kids need that. And young kids need that especially. And we usually let up a little bit as kids get older. You know, when kids are younger, we have a tighter leash around them because kids are they got 10 times as much energy as we do.
And their brains are still developing.
Yeah. And they be doing some stupid stuff. Like, what are you thinking?
Oh my gosh.
But they need room to do stupid stuff so that they can, you know, suffer the consequences, like Carter touching the stove.
Oh my gosh.
You know?
And he still touches the stove.
No, how many times does he need to burn himself?
I mean, I'm going to teach him that the little light, it says hot, you know, it's red. And if it's not red, then it's not hot.
Mm-hmm.
But still, but now he's cooking in the microwave.
That's where autonomy goes wrong and disobedience goes wrong, because he definitely could have burned the house down.
But he didn't, and he made himself some sausage. It was a bit crunchy. Yeah. He got the oven mitt, you know, like, we good. But we're not going to do that again. We're going to lock the microwave from now on.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah.
I think this is a good conversation, and hopefully people feel a little bit more empowered, knowledgeable, not thinking that we're crazy with this topic on why everyone should raise disobedient kids.
You got to raise disobedient children.
Yeah.
Because the world that we're transitioning to is, I'm not like a fear monger. It's not scary, but you want your children to be equipped. Like, you know, you want your child to be able to comfortably walk away from what everyone else is doing. We all want that. You know, we all don't want our kids following the crowd.
Yeah.
Because the crowd oftentimes isn't doing what you want your child to be doing.
Yeah.
But they need that confidence, and that confidence starts with standing up to your parents. You know, you gotta
We're
stand
gonna have
up.
some parents that we know, some children listening to this, and parents from the school gonna be texting us.
Man, stand up to your parents. If you think it's in your best interest, if you
Yeah.
think you're making the best decision,
Right.
and you think you're right, absolutely. And your parents should give you room to find out whether you're right or wrong.
And we pray that you are in a safe environment to do that.
Yeah. So if you're a child listening to this, and you be getting spanked, don't go be disobedient on our word. You gotta have a conversation with your parents
Yep.
about the best way to raise you.
Well, cool. I'm excited to see what's going to come from this. If you have examples, if you try, you know, take our advice and you try it out with your kids, and you
Let
have
us
something
know.
cool to share, yes, please let us know. Hit us up, DM us or something. Speaking of DMs, where can people find us?
So you can find me.
Not in your DMs. How about
You can
that?
come
Let
to
me
my
stop. Let me
DMs.
stop.
You can slide in the DM. My Instagram is where I'm most active. Austin.McGuffey. Austin.McGuffey on Instagram. Also, metabolismmentor.com. I have free resources available that teach you about your body, teach you how to achieve stable glucose, to have more energy, better fat burning, better memory, longer life, all the good stuff. So we teach people how to take care of themselves. And you?
And you can find me at fantasia.mcguffey on Instagram as well. I have websites, fantasiamcguffey.com.
Go read that blog.
I got one post on there, but
go
it's
read
good.
that.
Y'all
Go
should
read
check
that.
it out.
Yes, check that blog out. All right, well, cool. Good episode.
Yes, thank you for tuning in to the Culture of Health podcast. Please like and share and subscribe to our channel for more dope content, future episodes.
Yeah, peace.
Bye.